Hello, friends. Welcome once again to another episode of the Third Man Cricket Podcast. This is episode number 42, and we are here to do a review of the fourth Test match and the review of the series that is the Border Gavaskar Trophy between India and Australia. I have my podcast partner Ravi with me over here, and before I pass it on to him, it was an eventful Test match that went the entire distance, not mirroring the first three test matches, which ended in 2 days and a bit, and a pitch had a large part to play in that outcome of the fourth test match, where there was a stalemate at the end of the fifth day, which ensured that India not only retained the Border Gavaskar Trophy but also won the series 2-1, 16th such series when at home, which is unparalleled and unmatched in Test cricket's history. That's some streak. And also, they have ensured their place in the World Test Championship final for the second time running, wherein this result, coupled with New Zealand's thrilling victory over Sri Lanka, ensured that they're going to lock horns again with Australia 3 months down the line at the Oval in England. So I'll just pass it on to my friend Ravi to give a brief review of the fourth test match and what did you feel went right for both the sides in there. So Ravi.
Hello, Pawan Bhaiya. Hello, everyone. Okay, just to talk about the fourth test, dead pitch to start with, with all the tension and everything built up, saying, okay, we got two pitches, we got to do this. Maybe we'll have a spinning track. Maybe it will replicate what we necessarily saw against England, uh, and what we eventually saw. And this was pretty much evident in the first session, right on day one, and that was that they had a dead pitch on the track, and there was some amount of nervy movements probably towards maybe towards the end of day two or day three, right, wherein Sri Lanka was actually cruising and doing really well, and we were again looking back and saying, okay, maybe are is Sri Lanka going to upset India? Is New Zealand doing something fishy out there? But nonetheless, right, after 5 days of you know uh, stretch cricket, 5 days of cricket itself sounds very bizarre, for the lack of words, with the first two test games wrapping up within 3 days, right? Nonetheless, I mean, just to talk about what necessarily happened there, of course, Australia win the toss, they bat first, head in Kawaja. They give the start that is needed. Unfortunate miss there by KS Bharat, and I was livid because on these dead tracks, these are the catches that pretty much change games, like they say. Thankfully, Ashwin does well to dismiss head, and it doesn't really uh, necessarily change the course of the game or where it was actually going, right? And then Shami removes Labuschagne. We see some amount of grit there from Steve Smith, and he was livid with that dismissal and a beautiful delivery by Ravindra Jadeja out there. And then the Khawaja Green show with both of them scoring handsome hundreds. And at one point, Khawaja looked like he was unbeatable. He just went on scoring. For a change this time around, we see the tail wagging from Australia's end. Probably that's how bad the pitch was. Nathan Lyon putting up an handsome, I think 35 or something, and then Todd Murphy also playing really well at a better strike rate, scoring a good 40 runs. Um, uh, and eventually Australia get dismissed at 480. With India's innings, right? I mean, I was a bit jittery to start with. I wasn't very sure how I mean how the pitch would change, or would it deteriorate further? Maybe towards the end of day four and day five, and would we be having a total to chase, and that would necessarily put the series at 2-all. To be honest, that's though India would retain the trophy, right? Ultimately, 2-all is more than a win for Australia, and. Uh, Unfortunate dismissal of Rohit. I mean, he was looking fluid. Everyone was, there were no edges, not many troubles everyone for facing, or I mean, the openers were facing, with Shubman looking very confident and Rohit playing all his shots and a beautiful six. Nonetheless, I mean, a very soft dismissal. Uh, Rohit perishes. and Pujara comes in, scores those amazing knocks, and just to kind of highlight, right? This is one test wherein all top six partnerships have resulted in 50s. So again, to say that this was a batting paradise, and in this batting paradise, all Indian cricket fans were just expecting one thing, that was a Virat Kohli red ball 100, and the king actually responds to all his fans and scores a very beautiful 100. Nervy last 20 runs, but nonetheless, a very beautiful 100. And just to finish off what Shubman did, I think for I mean, this is of course a pitch which offered a lot more to the batsman, but he had to prove himself given he took someone else's spot, someone very talented, and so on and so forth. And we are used to seeing making random changes with the top order. But very good knock there by Shubman Gill. What I was absolutely livid about was Ravindra Jadeja and his dismissal. Just when he was upping the score, and then we looked to score probably quickly, and we were expecting a maybe a possible result. If not result, at least we'd say that okay, fine, let's quickly score and then get closer. Um, Ravindra Jadeja perishes, and then comes KS Bharat, and he looked very fluid in that beautiful 44 that he's played with those amazing three sixes. Uh, very tensed run out, uh, you know, possibility with Virat out there, and Bharat kind of sending him back, and Virat being livid, but all because he was set at 70 odd, and then we were expecting Virat to cruise and go ahead the 100. Akshay does again what he does, right? He's our second best batsman, and I'm sorry, I think third best batsman, probably just behind. Oh, no, I think second best, just behind Virat. So Akshay scores another 79, beautiful, and he deserved 100 is what I felt, but dismissed again, and then nothing much to talk about the tail that necessarily didn't wag much. Coming to Australia, not much days left, not much time left. They just stuck around. Travis said with his beautiful 90. We just had uh, you know, probably a hope when Kuhneman was dismissed early in on day five, and of course, Labuschagne and Smith just ensured what they had to end. Okay, so this reminded me of all those tests that we used to play back in 90s or 2000s, or maybe 2000s or 2010s, not much into 2010s, maybe or 2000s, right? Wherein we used to, the priority was to not lose the test match, irrespective of anything. And parallelly, the test match in New Zealand was extremely well contested, with amazing knocks from Angelo Matthews in the second innings to actually giving them hope. Good bowling performance from Sri Lanka as well, and then the Kane Williamson masterclass of winning the game on the last ball. So it's very interesting. Like we've talked about it in the past, World Test Championship, the scenarios, the possibilities, the probabilities, all of this kind of makes it really, really interesting. Wherein you're kind of looking at multiple scorecards and looking at possibilities, and the possibilities are stretched across, say, 4 to 5 days, right? Nonetheless, with New Zealand winning and with India ensuring a draw, we've retained the Border Gavaskar Trophy 2-1. My prediction turned out to be right, though not the game I expected to, India to lose was probably Delhi, but I think we still sailed through. Nonetheless, I mean, uh, great 5 days of Test cricket on these different parts of the world, and here we are again looking forward to play Australia in Oval this time around. Probably a Lords or even a Manchester would be contested, saying okay, it really helps the seamers out there, but Oval is fairly I won't say neutral. It still would you know uh, really favor the seamers, but nonetheless there is some amount of spin there, and let's not forget what India did against England in 2021 when we last played. So really looking forward to the World Test Championship, and of course, your thoughts on the fourth Test, Baya, and of course, let's probably I'd like to hear some more about the New Zealand versus Sri Lanka Test that we got to see.
Thanks for that summary, Ravi, about the fourth test match. Yes, and once India suffered that reversal in Indore, they were really in a quandary as to which kind of pitch they would, come up with. They had basically three options at their disposal. One was to prepare a similar kind of a raging turner, like in the previous test matches, or a very flat wicket like it produced. Or if they had one at Indore, then obviously Rohit Sharma mentioning that they would go for a greenish pitch to prepare for the WTC. But they didn't want to, leave their fate in somebody else's hands as far as the WTC was concerned. I think that they took the safer option of having that kind of a flat deck. And on these kind of decks, the toss becomes much more important. And so Australia were able to make use of that pitch for the first couple of days and get that score on the board. Again, uh, kudos to Usman Khawaja for playing the way that he did. And for a player who carried drinks in his last two tours to India in 2013 and 2017, this was a memorable series and easily the best batsman that Australia had in the series. And you wouldn't have bet him being that before the start of the series and would have chosen either Smith or Labuschagne. But for his personal success, he would have been thrilled to bits to have performed the way he had. And Cam Green scored his first Test match 100, and no better place to score than India and overseas. And he is one player who's going to serve for them uh, for many years to come, being a genuine all-rounder, and that should hold him in good stead and prepare him for the future battles that lie outside of Australia. And once they put on that huge score on the board, the pressure was on India to either match that or surpass that, which they have done so consistently on such kind of pitches in the last 10 odd years. We have seen instances where the opposition has got 400 to 450 runs, and India have still gone on to win test matches by an innings as well. So uh, nice to see all the Indian batsmen cashing in. Definitely the likes of Rohit Sharma and Pujara would have felt hard done by after giving away those starts on that kind of a pitch. Shubman Gill again proved his class and continued his superb form that he had been carrying on from the white ball format and justified his selection ahead of KL Rahul. While the other side of the argument was maybe KL Rahul would have scored runs on this pitch, but Shubman deserved his chance very much. And then, like you mentioned, everyone was waiting for that moment when King Kohli would score his 75th international 100, and more so after his comeback. He had scored centuries in the T20 and the one day format, and we all know how passionate he is about Test cricket. So everyone was waiting for that uh, final bit as far as the red ball was concerned. And there we were, produced a masterclass. It was a un-Virat Kohli-like innings, but more mature, very solid, I would say. And you can judge from the fact that in his first 100 runs, he had scored only 5 boundaries. So that means he virtually ran 80 out of his first 100 runs and stepped on the accelerator after that. This goes on to show how determined he was. Not that he did not look good earlier in the series, but the state of the pitches made sure that, you know, every batsman's number was there on some or the other ball. And such has been the challenging conditions in the last 3 or 4 years that Indian batsmen have failed to, produce runs even at home, to be fair to them. And Akshar Patel again proved his worth with the bat. He's been a revelation in white ball with his batting and proved his credentials with the ball as well in this test match when he, for the first time in the series, got a longer sort of a spell considering the pitch. And one word of mention for Ravichandran Ashwin as well and his skill shown in the first innings of bowling, where he picked up 6 wickets and bowled 47 odd overs. Was really patient, and that is a true test of a test cricketer.
Absolutely.
When the conditions are favorable, any spinner can come and pitch the ball and let the pitch do the rest. But it is in such conditions that great bowlers are separated from the good bowlers, and that's why Nathan Lyon also was cut above the rest. And we saw how the likes of Murphy and Koeman struggled on these kind of pitches where the situations demanded consistency for a longer periods of time. And once India took that lead of 90 runs, they would have been hoping for 60 or 70 runs more. And one handicap was Shreyas Iyer not being able to bat. We all know that he's a quick scorer. And I think that also played a part on Kohli's mind when on fourth morning he was very, very sedate and conservative in his approach. And he later clarified as well that they knew that they were one batter short, so they wanted to play time. And he was ably supported by the likes of Bharat and Jadeja and Aksar in that scheme of things. Pity that he did not receive much support to complete his double hundred, but nevertheless, I think fans all over the world will take 186 anytime at the end of the day, and hopefully this sort of sets him on a run in Test cricket. And once India took that lead, all the Indian bowlers or the spinners were hoping for the pitch to crumble to put some doubt in the minds of the Australian batsmen on the fifth day and set some panic. And having bowled them out in a session a couple of times in the series must have given Indians hope that if they were able to pick up 2 or 3 quick wickets, that might set panic amongst their ranks. But the pitch did not crumble as expected, and the batting continued to be easy. Travis Head, made the most of it, and Labuschagne also scored his first 50, I believe, in the series. Um, and a special mention to Travis Head because since the time he started opening in the series from the third Test match onwards, he's progressively improved, and that should hold him in good stead when he tours the subcontinent again and India, hopefully in 4 years' time. That more or less, brought the curtains down on the Border Gavaskar Trophy with India winning that for the fourth consecutive time, which has never happened in the history of the BGT. And they are on their way to the World Test Championship final um, for the second time running. They were the best team in the first cycle as well, and maybe they must have lost the final, but they are still the best test side in the world as far as I'm concerned, having proved themselves in all conditions and to qualify again for the second time. Speaks volumes of this group, and I'm hoping that that one silverware is achieved by this team because they truly deserve it at the end of the day. But it's not going to be very easy against Australia,
Very true.
3 months down the line. Many people were saying, they got a helping hand from New Zealand, but it was more or less expected. It would have been a miracle if Sri Lanka had gone on to beat New Zealand 2-0 in the series, but they gave a good fist of themselves in that first test match with wonderful performances and just got edged on the last day by the brilliance of Kane Williamson and uh, Darren Mitchell as well. So it was an enthralling test match. In fact, the day five was so boring for the Ahmedabad test that many folks were switched on to that test match, which went right down to the wire. And they've got a good young side coming up, Sri Lanka. They just have to be patient and back those youngsters. And I'm hopeful that it'll hold them in good stead going forward because you want a strong Sri Lanka team out there as well. So that was about the fourth test match and the Border Gavaskar Trophy. Um, any particular thing that we need to mention about, we've spoken about Virat Kohli, or did you want to add anything, Ravi, over there with respect to his performances? That elusive 100 in this test matches has come back, and you could see the determination and steel in his eyes in that fourth test match. And hopefully that, like I mentioned, sets him on a roll. I know that, you know, we don't have any red ball cricket before that WTC final, and players have to, virtually hop on from the IPL and go towards the WTC final. So I think we can just move on and set our sights on the World Test Championship finale, which will be played in 3 months' time. And like you mentioned, it's at the Oval, which is traditionally where the last Test match of the English season is played around end of August or September, when the summer is coming to an end. But it's always proven to be a batting paradise per se. And if there is one pitch that might help spinners a bit, it's the Oval. But one thing we have to consider is this match is being held in the first week of June, and that's early part of the English summer. So I don't think you can expect, dry conditions as you would expect in August or September at the Oval. Depends on the weather a lot as well. And of course, the dynamics of the final would also change, the setup of the playing 11 as well. I have my particular thoughts on what challenges India might face when selecting their 11 because I don't think they selected the right 11 in the previous final at Southampton against New Zealand. And I'll come to my thoughts on that playing 11 and stuff like that. Um, but I just wanted to take your opinion as to what do you feel about the WTC finale.
Of course, there's a lot of time, right? And there's a lot of cricket left, and all of these lads pretty much play the IPL. And then, Rohit was candid when he said, okay, by May 25th, there's a bunch of probably six teams that are out of the equation, and then all of them would pretty much fly to England to play the WTC final or prep up, right? Which kind of makes sense. And well, how do I put it? I don't want to sound pessimistic, but it's just that there's loads of cricketing season ahead with the ODIs out there and with the IPL, and then injury concerns, fatigue, everything actually comes into the picture. But at this point in time, I think we're looking at a very straightforward playing 11. It's just that I'm not very sure if we'll be necessarily playing Akshar Patel, and probably just going around with three seamers and two spinners. And of course, since Jasprit Bumrah is out of the equation, and are we really looking at someone like a someone like a Jaydev Unadkat who can offer something from the given is a left arm seamer? So I think that's where the contention is, right? We'll definitely not be playing three spinners, but just having three seamers plus two spinners in the form of Ashwin and Jaddu, both whose batting capabilities, of course, Jaddu is a batsmen all set there, and Ashwin actually contributes a hell lot more. And it's tough to lose out on Akshar, but I think that's where we are looking at this point in time, and I think it is a big asterisk. Of course, we were told that there'll be some amount of workload management given the World Cup up there, given the World Test Championship finale, and the desperation for I'll say silverware. Uh, and we look more organized, and I hope uh, right? I mean, I think, I mean, we went with World Test Championship finale in 2021. Um, where we have necessarily failed is okay. I know for a fact that the playing 11 wasn't the best. Maybe we should have gone ahead with another seamer, is what one could say, given the rainy conditions and the cloudy weather and whatnot. But fact being, the batting has never clicked out there, right? I mean, it's a pinpointed fact, and probably that's what we kind of tried to correct in the England series in 2020 one subsequent to the finale. And then, of course, this time around, given it's at Oval, batting should not disappoint. And then I think we have good enough bunch out there, five bowlers who can actually go pick 20 wickets. And rest is left to the rain gods as well. In England, rain troubled us more than New Zealand probably the last time around we played them. Uh, so yeah, of course, has a reserve day, but yeah, exciting uh, finale, exciting context to the whole, uh, you know, feeling of getting a silverware. And Australia would love to win this as well. So it's going to be tricky. And then coming from Australia side as well, uh, you know, Hazelwood may be fit. Pat Cummins could be back in the picture. So we're looking at a even more organized Aussie bowling attack, and I'm positive they'll play Nathan Lyon, but Scott Boland may, or probably Cameron Green. All of these are beautiful options that they have, and like you rightly told, there'll be some amount of movement and bounce. Early part of summer, what really concerns me is the fact that rains are a bigger probability back then, or probably in June. So yeah, these are the factors that we should keep in mind. Nonetheless, there will be a very detailed preview for the World Test Championship finale uh, in June first week, and I'm really looking forward to look at the equations then, and uh, where are we with our roster. Your thoughts, Pon?
Yeah, thank you for summing up that, Ravi. It'll be an engrossing contest to look forward to. But I've always believed that going forward, ICC should rethink and make the final a ma- match series as opposed to just a one-off. Because one-off test match should not define the 2 years of hard work by that was done by both the teams to reach that finale at the end of the day. But we can totally understand that due to paucity of time, that might not be possible. Um, and like you mentioned, it's going to be helpful condition for the bowlers in that first week of June in England. And for once, there will not be much talk about the pitch because it's being held on neutral ground. So it'll be left to the local curator and the ICC to produce a good pitch. And definitely, we see weather interventions in England as well. And hopefully, like in the previous World Test Championship final, the reserve sixth day can also be used just in case we need that. And from an Australian point of view, they like to play with a set template and a team in these kind of conditions, unlike in subcontinent. So I think they will be hoping for their personnel to remain fit. And the only decision they might need to take is on David Warner. I think he should be given one more chance. And let's not forget that it's going to be a long tour for them because this WTC final will be followed by a five-match Ashes series, which will kick off the next cycle of the WTC between 2023 and 2025. So they'll not have much time to recuperate after the WTC final before heading into Edgbaston the following week in that first Ashes Test match. So they'll have a pretty much set template, with Warner, Khawaja opening the innings, and Labuschagne, Smith, and Head manning the middle order. Cameron Green, the all-rounder at number 6, followed by Alex Carey, and they'll play just the one spinner, Nathan Lyon, and then they will hope that Hazelwood, Stark, and Cummins will all be fit as the main three seamers. That should ideally be their playing 11, considering everybody's fit. And I think there will be a couple of key decisions to take for India because the top four, I sense, are pretty much going to be straightforward in the form of Gill and Rohit opening the innings, followed by Pujara and Kohli at number 3 and 4. It remains to be seen whether Shreyas is going to be fit at that point of time, whereas his recurring back injury seems serious. Um, so numbers 5 and 6, I think, are going to be the point of contention for India, wherein I think in absence of Rishabh Pant, we need to take an aggressive step, and Ravindra Jadeja can play, in fact, at number 5, giving the difference of a left-hander at that position, and he can play as a batting all-rounder instead of a bowling all-rounder in these conditions, and his batting has improved by such a great degree that he can definitely play as a frontline batsman as
So
well.
true.
And at number 6, it will be a key decision whether you want to go in with, I wouldn't mind for that one-off test match considering Hardik Pandya, who can be your fourth seamer in those conditions, and offer that bowling option to you and play as a batsman. It remains to be seen how fit he is. So in absence of a genuine all-rounder like Rishabh Pant, he might be a good option. Otherwise, either he or Shardul Thakur can be your fourth seamer. And if you play Jadeja at number 5, he can be your sixth bowling option as well. And then you can play Ravichandran Ashwin as a frontline spinner. And the only other decision will be to see who will be the third seamer for India. In absence of Jasprit Bumrah, you will obviously have Siraj and Shami, the two obvious choices. Whether it's going to be Umesh or anybody else from the pack, Prasidh Krishna also is not fit. So whom are they going to fall back on? Take a punt with Jaydev Unadkat being the left-arm seaming option in those kind of conditions. It's going to be a bit of a tricky call. Maybe they might lean on somebody like Umesh Yadav, who is experienced and in fact played in that test match at the Oval a couple of years ago when India won that. And if there is one ground that can offer some kind of reverse swing, it's the Oval, and he's very good at that. So there were murmurs about looking out for either Ishan Kishan or somebody else in the keeping role, but I think KS Bharat has not done too much wrong and deserves his chance. Um, and like you mentioned, you can't do much about there just being week to 10 days gap between the end of the IPL and the start of the final. Even if the players from those 6 teams which are out of the playoffs go to England, they can only acclimatize themselves by playing on centre wickets at certain venues. They're not going to have a time to arrange for a county game or stuff like that. So um, they're going to be coming in pretty much underprepared, but that's how it is. Last time you have to remember that New Zealand played the WTC final, but before that series they were involved in a three-match series already in England, so they were accustomed to those conditions. It'll be same for the Aussies as well, and they will just try to you know treat this final as a stepping ground to the upcoming Ashes series over there as well. So yeah, all in all, it promises to be a humdinger of a final, and hopefully we see India finally you know uh, getting the monkey off their back as far as ICC events is concerned. It's going to be close to a decade now that since they have won and have choked in pretty much every format of the game as far as these big finals are concerned. Uh, but you know, worst come worst, even if they don't end up winning the trophy, that should not define their test record that they have displayed in the last 4 to 5 years. I think
So true.
this has been the best era of test cricket for India, and that has hold them in good stead. And I do have a feeling that after this WTC final, when we move on to the next cycle, it be a period of transition for us, as we will see many of these stalwarts, slowly getting phased out, and we have to find the next set of batsmen and bowlers who are going to take the Indian test team forward. Uh, and all these players have done human service and produced great results, and help the team achieve great laurels in the purest form of the game. So yeah, all in all, this looks to be a great offering, and hopefully both the teams can live up to their billing and produce a good test match for everyone to view. There will be no shortage of crowd support there at the Oval, with the local patrons also very much engrossed with their test cricket. They love the test cricket over there in England, and plus when India is playing, you'll see many people come into the ground over there in London and support them. So there's not going to be any shortage of noise or anything like that in that final. And you'll expect a great amount of support for these teams. And of course, you'll expect the English also to support the Indians at the end of the day in a match that they're playing against the Aussies.
If they
And
get
they
the
would,
tickets, yeah.
if they get the tickets, that is correct. Then, uh, they would just want, to rub it into the Aussies and uh, make sure that Indians win so that they don't go into a high when that Ashes series starts. So India will have double support from that perspective. So yeah, looking forward to that. And who knows? We've had discussions. If you might have that opportunity to fly down over there and watch the final, and we can plan up a episode live from the venue over there at some point of time, and that'll be a good experience for us to have. Fingers crossed.
I hope something works on those lines, but yeah, long way to go. Not just the distance, but yeah, in terms of everything else as well. But yeah, really looking forward if that happens. Amazing.
Yeah, definitely. That'll be a new thing for all our viewers on the podcast as well. So yeah, my prediction when we did the preview for the BGT was 3-1 for India. They ended up winning 2-1. So really happy that they have won that trophy for the fourth consecutive time and have a proud record of winning 16th consecutive series at home, which has not been achieved, like I mentioned, by any test side in the history of the game. And that's no mean feat at the end of the day, and just goes on to prove how difficult it is for any visiting team to beat India in India. And I think the teams world over will now consider this to be the pinnacle of the test game. That is, if they want to call themselves the best test team in the world, they have to tick off that thing from their bucket list of beating India in India, which is not easy. Um, so we have the one-day series coming up. Not um, very appealing from an ICC um, ODI league standpoint, because India has already qualified for the World Cup from a host point of view, but nevertheless going to be very, very important for both the sides as they set their template for the upcoming World Cup. And
Absolutely. Just one thought before you kind of go ahead with this, Pawan Bhaiya. So
yeah,
I don't know who the hell scheduled this with at Bombay, Visakhapatnam, and Chennai, coastal cities in the month of mid-March. It's scorching already out there, right? So dew is going to be play a big factor, of course, but it's they're going to get roasted.
Yeah, obviously, you cannot expect anything else in India. Ideally, this would have been the time when the World Cup would have been held in India, February, March. But we know that due to COVID and multiple postponements, all the World Cups had to be moved. The dew will be ever more prevalent in October, November when the actual World Cup happens. And they seriously have to look at the start times of the match to make sure that the advantage of the toss is negated. But it all depends upon how their arrangement is there with the broadcaster and stuff like that. So it remains to be seen. And India will also like to, uh, maintain the consistency that they have shown so far in the ODI game with home series wins against Sri Lanka and New Zealand earlier this year. So it remains to be seen as well in the absence of Shreyas Iyer, how that mid order comes up, and KL Rahul will be back in the mix of things as a wicket keeper and stuff like that. So Australia are again going to be without Pat Cummins, and Steve Smith will again fill in as the captain. So it's going to be a pretty quick turnaround as far as the three matches are concerned, and we will ideally do a review of the series once all the three matches are completed. And also, we'll let our viewers know that we are mindful of the Women's Premier League as well, and we will soon bring you an episode with a review of the league that has happened so far. And we all know that it's been a game-changing event for the women's game, especially for the uh, women cricketers in India. And then we'll jump into the IPL for the next 2 months. So lots of cricketing action to look forward to, Um and a lot of enthralling action coming up in the summer. So stay tuned for more previews, reviews, and action as far as the Third Man Cricket Podcast is concerned. Thanks for joining in again. And before we wrap it up, you have anything to add, Ravi?
Nothing more. Just looking forward to the ODIs, a format I really love, and then of course just edge towards the probably the fag end of PSL, wherein the playoffs are right there, and also Women's Premier League. That's about it from my side.
Sounds great. All right. Thank you, folks, then. Signing off here, episode number 42. Hope you had a good listen. And we will see you on the other side after the end of the ODI series in our next episode.
See you,
Thank you.
everyone. Bye bye.